everybody. Welcome to the Canine Connection podcast. We have a guest today, and Lori is going to introduce her.
Hi, everybody. So our guest today is Ariel Wolf. Um, Ariel, I don't know her very well, but I have always admired her from afar when I saw her at trials. And Petra and I actually got to get to know her a little bit. This year when we were down at the Obedience Classic in Florida, because she was down there showing her dogs. She had her, well, anyway, I'm going to let Arielle explain and introduce her dogs and her life, but she does have what we wanted to have Arielle on was the reason why was because she has non-typical obedience breeds. She has a German wire-haired pointer named Newt, and she has a long-haired dachshund named Dwight. And we just find that super cool, number one. And number two, we really would love her to be able to share her, her training processes with these two dogs that are non-typical breeds that we normally see in the obedience ring. And, her journey and how she got started, why she got these two breeds. And I know she does a slew of other things beyond obedience with her dogs. So I'm going to hand it over to Arielle. Welcome,
Wait,
Arielle.
hold on. I'm going to jump in real quick. So I'm at the classic, and Lori's like, oh, yeah, blah, 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 person we need to talk to. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, like, dude, I'm showing two dogs. Like, there's mass chaos down here. I can't process the information right now. Then at some point, I don't really watch a lot, but I don't know. I'm watching probably to see how a ring's running or something like that. And I see somebody working a German wire-haired pointer, and this dog is working really cute. Like, it's so happy. It's so animated. It's just working beautifully. And I'm like, that will always catch my eye. A nice working dog, like a happy working dog. But then on top of that, it's like an off breed. And I'm
Right.
like, wow, like, good, you go, girl. Like, good job. And it's not till like later, probably towards when I was done with my runs, that like my brain could actually process. And I'm like, is this and I go up to, is that the person you were talking about? And it was. So anyway, um, okay, I'm done.
Okay. So, Arielle, the floor is yours. We'd like to introduce yourself and just sort of, you know, explain on how you got started and what you do and all the great things you do.
Yep. Thanks so much for having me on. And I'm really flattered to hear that you both think so highly of me. I think really highly of both of you.
Thank
I'm a dog trainer, a dog sports content creator, and a self-professed jack of all trades, master of none.
What is a
I
dog sports content creator?
so I'm on TikTok and I
Oh, okay.
curate mostly obedience and rally related content towards the under 40. I feel really strongly and passionately about trying to make some of these really th- these sports that people are very intimidated by much more accessible to people who may not be able to access classes or get their foot in the door easily
Yep.
locally.
Nice. Well,
So
I'm
I
not
got it.
under 40, so that would explain why I didn't know what that was.
I mean, really, I market at anybody who doesn't have an AARP card yet. But
Dude, I'm there.
okay, well,
Kidding.
Well, TikTok is like, I mean, I have two girls under the age of 25 and TikTok is their life. So
Mhm.
that's amazing. That's awesome.
yeah. So that's been a lot of fun as like a little bit of a side quest. But as for how I got started, I got into dog training about 15 years ago. I was in high school and getting ready to get my first service dog, who was actually a black lab. And I loved labs. Labs are great. But personality wise, we didn't really mesh and he didn't meet my needs very well. So our partnership was pretty short-lived, and I returned him to the program and found myself working with a trainer to train my own service dog, who was a Chesapeake Bay Retriever.
Hmm.
Um, Fast forward about 10 years, and I got Jubilee, who is my first German Wirehaired pointer, and she was a wild young dog. She was a fabulous service dog, but she was so high energy, and unlike my previous dogs, she needed more outlets than just her day job to be fulfilled, and even more than that, to be able to calmly hang out in public. So I took a rally class and I started doing dog sports, fast cat, um, with her to allow her to better help me. And um, the partnership of the dog sports really took every aspect of our relationship to another level.
Mm.
So between her and my current dogs, Newt and Dwight, Newt's the German wire-haired pointer, and Dwight is the long-haired dachshund. I've since earned advanced titles in obedience, rally, agility, field trials, and more. So I'm hooked on dog sports, and I love to tell people all about it. This is my jam. I can totally talk about this for a very long time.
So I recently, I don't know if it was recent, maybe it was not that recent, but so non-traditional breeds, they're just the reality is they're a little harder at times with certain sports, especially sports that are not inherently self-reinforcing, like rally and obedience, to motivate them, and we have to like be creative and think outside the box. And you were, God, I want to say you were doing articles. I hope I'm right with your dachshund,
Yep.
and you had done something like completely un like unconventional. Do you know
Unconventional.
what do you it was a
Yeah.
Facebook post. Do you remember what
Yeah.
I'm talking about? Yeah,
So
can
Oh,
you
I
talk
remember
about
that
that?
story.
Yeah.
Dwight is a dog, who he's my first dachshund. I'm not sure how much of this is dachshund, and I'm not how much of this is just him as an individual. Um, but there's not many dachshunds in obedience, and compared to how popular of a breed they are, I can understand why. Um, so, um, he has a brilliant nose, and like many hounds, he loves to smell, he loves to, use it, and I knew that if I could click into, what he was doing with articles, he would really enjoy it, but, he's not a very resilient dog, and he has a very low tolerance for frustration and a very low tolerance for being wrong. So, if he's not got a very high rate of reinforcement, if his, success rate isn't exceedingly high, I would say at least 9 out of 10, um, he's just like, "You know what? This isn't fun anymore. I'm quitting."
Mm.
Um, so with articles, because it's really hard to get them to have that high of a success rate, um, what I did is after I tried a couple of different methods. I tried around the clock, I tried a little bit of a tie down, and I would start and stop a couple of methods and be like, "You know what? This one isn't for him." And ultimately, what I ended up deciding on is he could bring me back any article, and I would reward every single article he brought back. But bringing back the right article, especially the right article without having touched any of the other articles first, was a huge jackpot. And he's a smart dog. He understands that a handful of cookies is better than one cookie. So it didn't take him long to realize, oh, if I bring back the right article just the first time I smell it, I get a handful of cookies. That's great for me.
I think that's so awesome because, like, I'm just laughing to myself, imagining, like, when I tell my students sometimes, like, "It's alright, don't worry about it, just give them a cookie anyway." What? But, like, the outrage, you're rewarding the wrong thing, you're telling them that bringing back the correct article is right, like, because people get so entrenched in, like, "This is how we've always done it," or "This is how I've always been taught," or,
Right.
like, there is no one way. Like, and it doesn't always mean that. Like, in essence, you were rewarding effort
Correct.
and then you were letting him solve the problem on his own, basically.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It must also be challenging because he's so low to the ground and his nose is right there. I find that that's challenging a lot with little dogs, especially little dogs that
Yeah.
are like terriers, hounds, like
Right, when they're just, like, intrinsically wanting to be sniffing everything, for sure.
I take advantage of that. I you're not going to change the fact that their nose is, 3 inches from the ground, but what you can change is their relationship with the ground. So, I walk into any trial building, and I've done this since he came to me. He was about a year old when I got him. He was disobedient and a nuisance dog, which is why I got him for training, and, um, one thing led to another, and he ended up staying. So,
I didn't
that's
know
how I got
that.
my accidental dachshund.
Yeah, I didn't
Um,
know that. Wow.
yeah.
how old
Um,
was he when you got him?
just over a year. I think he was 13 months.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he was a dog that, um, had lived with a family member, and, I'd had him on and off, for training since he was a puppy, but he ended up just being a little bit too much hound, um,
Ah,
for my family, so he came to me, and I'm like, "You know what? Anything that's gonna live in my house is going to have a job," and the job that I originally assigned him was, to train and get, my other dog, Newt, jealous and work through so I could work through arousal issues with him. So I would train him for 2, 3 minutes at a time when Newt needed a break or when I specifically wanted to get Newt wound up before training him. And that ended up being the perfect amount of time to just get Dwight interested in working and training. And short like, over time, that became, longer stretches, and then he actually ended up taking on much more of a role in my life and, being trained than I anticipated, but, um, yeah, his original job was just to make Newt jealous.
that is
So,
so
how do you use the
on.
sniffing and the floor to your advantage?
Um, so when I go anywhere, I'll acclimate him, and in the beginning, what I mean by acclimate is I'll just let him walk around. I don't tell him anything. I just automatically let him sniff because that's going to be his first inclination. He wants to check everything out.
Yeah.
Um, So this was my warm up at the classic. This is my warm up at any local trial. This is my warm up when I go to train in my local parks. I just let them sniff around, and eventually they're going to get to a point where they're like, you know what? I've checked out everything, and they'll lift their head. And that's a moment that you can mark. And it might take 20, 30 minutes. It might take longer.
So, do you, do you cue him to go sniff?
I
Like,
don't.
okay, because I have Jackie and Snacks, Petra. She
Mhm.
actually cues him because I found that really interesting. When she first told me that, literally had a heart attack, and I'm like, "Well, wait a second." And she does. She goes, "I go in and I put it on cue, and I said, 'Let's go sniff.'"
So
And I
the
just
reason I
find it,
don't
yeah, tell
is,
me.
yeah,
Interesting to me.
is because I really want him to choose um, to disengage with the environment and engage with me. So when he lifts
Right,
his
right,
head,
right.
then I have an opportunity to reward. And the more that he lifts his head, the more rewards he gets. So eventually it becomes like, rather than me begging him to disengage with the environment, it's like eventually his head comes up and I'm like, hey, look how awesome I am over here. I'm doing all these fun things. You want to play?
Right, right. That's
Mhm.
the acclamation where you want them to just choose you over the
Right.
environment.
And over time, it becomes a much, much shorter acclimation. I would say in general, it takes him under 2 minutes to acclimate to a new environment at this point. And
Nice.
2 minutes is usually pretty generous because he understands the pattern of I go, I sniff around until I've
I'm
checked it all
ready.
out, and then we're gonna go and we're gonna train, and then I get to come out and I get to sniff again.
Yeah.
So I don't actually have issues with sniffing in the ring. The 1 or 2 times that I have had issues with him sniffing, I see that as he's overwhelmed with the environment, and I've just picked him up and left. Just this isn't the
Right,
day
like,
for us.
it's just displacement, right?
Right.
Yep.
He's just like, "I can't I'm confused, I'm concerned, whatever the case, that's why I'm doing it," which is different than him just not being engaged.
Right, and because I know that I have this long relationship history built up with him where he understands that sniffing is not an integral part of the behavior change that we're gonna be doing. If he's sniffing excessively in between, that just means his head isn't where it needs to be, and I'm not gonna get the work that I want regardless of what I say or do.
Wow.
Well put.
So it's pretty amazing. So you got Dwight with no intention of doing any sort of formal structured dog sport things, but then as you were using him as a pawn for new, it sort of developed into some, some things started to shape and come together, and then you decided to pursue, and then eventually Ariel had him entered in novice at the classic, like the biggest, hardest, most distracting dog show in the
Yeah,
country. Tell us
and I was
about,
actually really
like,
happy about
how
that.
that happened.
Okay, so,
That's pretty amazing.
Dwight is he's actually my best obedience dog. He's easily capable of a 198 when he's on. Um, but he's really inconsistent, and I think that that's going to be true of a lot of these, more non-traditional breeds, and there's definitely a spectrum to non-traditional, and we can get into that in a minute. Um, but, he was just this dog that I got him through novice. He was doing beautifully in my local trials. Unfortunately, he was attacked. There was a dog who came over the ring gate and went after him when he was doing a retrieve over high in training. And that forever kind of did some damage in that he's not sure that, I mean, now that he knows that dogs can come over the ring gate, I'm never going to fully convince him that that's never going to happen again.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
one of my big long-term goals has been to get him one notch point and to be able to show him at the NOC. The NOC environment is really challenging, but it's a lot easier than the classic.
Yeah, agree.
So, I've been kind of slowly getting him worked into. He's in Rally Novice again at the RNC this coming July. Um, he's capable of working well past that, but I like to be able to hang on to the leash as long as I can in that kind of environment. So I haven't moved him up. Um, and I really want him to just be able to be in those environments and continually build on the success that we have. My idea of success for him is for him to be happy and comfortable. It's not a cue or a score.
So have you, when you first started trialing him in novice at like probably smaller local trials, like then did you progress and try to get him acclimated to busier venues? Like what was your process with that to like prepare him for the classic this year, or last year, and then preparing him for the RNC for this year?
Um, so I hadn't really taken him to any significantly larger trials. I did take him to the RNC last year, and he froze up quite a bit. Fortunately, still had the leash on. It was Rally Novice, and I was able to just celebrate the short little moments of success. As for the classic last year, he had way, way more moments of success, despite novice obedience being much harder and requiring much more from him. He still
Mhm.
froze up, but he was able to work through all of it. It wasn't like he needed to be physically helped out of any of it.
Right. He
Um,
was.
yeah, he didn't qualify any of his 3 runs. but that's not a measure of success or lack thereof. He did some really awesome work with dogs on the other side of the ring gate, and a lot of what was good was beautiful.
It was. And just for everybody listening, the classic is the busiest, most distracting, hardest dog show venue. I think. I think you guys can probably agree out of
It is
everything we
it
go
it
to.
is 300%. It's there are no words that could ever
Yeah.
adequately describe
Yeah.
how loud and busy and chaotic and smelly,
Mm.
and yeah, there are no words to describe. It is easily by far the hardest dog show venue.
And the
Yeah, it's
ring.
all of the stimuli you could ever imagine in any
Yeah.
local trial combined together and then turned up to 1,000.
Mhm.
Right. And the
Yeah.
rings are all back to back, right? So
Yep.
Mhm.
for a dog who has had some trauma with, a dog crossing barrier to get him,
Right,
it
having a
was
dog do a go out on the other side of the ring gate was really, really hard for
exactly.
him.
Mhm.
Exactly. So the rings are all going at the same time. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing.
What did
Yeah,
you do to, like, build his, confidence back up after that happened? After the dog jumped over the ring gate?
I did a lot of, just having him exist in environments where there were other dogs and, um, just passively see other dogs. I didn't do a ton of, face-to-face interactions, more just return to normalcy. Just dogs can exist around you, ones
Yeah.
that I knew were safe and under control, that
Yeah,
kind of fit the
and
description of yeah.
yeah, and we saw that a little bit when you came up and did a class with me, because I think I had the ring divided,
Yep,
right? And you were doing like a broad jump or something, and yeah, that's where we saw it a little bit, and there was a little avoidance just because of that with the other dog on the other ring gate. And you just worked through it until he finally got it, and then I think you had moved it over a little bit to help him
yep.
out, and he was
I
successful.
I give more space whenever possible, and if
Yeah.
not, then I make it easier, and there's always something that you can do to, um, uh, backstep your exercise to the point that your dog can be successful, and if there's nothing you can do, that's really not an environment that they can work in at that time.
Yeah, they're not ready.
I think what's really important because, I've seen this happen a lot is where, yes, that did happen to him. Yes, it did affect him, but it is what it is, it's done, so now or after that and through today, you just work with him to help him move through that. I think a lot of times people take that and then they throw their hands up in the air and they're like, the dog's ruined. And every time, like, they work their dog or their dog gets a little uncomfortable, weird, they're like, oh, see, there it is, there it is. And they almost make it worse by creating like this self fulfilling prophecy. And then sometimes they're like, oh, see, he's nervous. And a dog's in some situations isn't even nervous,
Yeah,
like, the whole labeling thing, right?
yeah,
Instead of
Yep,
just being like, which is what you're doing, where you're like, "Yep, it happened. Yep, it sucks. Yep, it bothers him. Well, now I have to deal with it. Here's what I'm doing, and
yeah,
here's what I will continue to do." Right?
yep,
Which
and
is
what
go
I've
ahead.
always done, with Dwight is the message that I want Dwight to have as a takeaway is, "I understand why you're nervous," and I think that's a valid reason, but there's also ways that you can do this, and I just wanna empower him that he can do it because every time he does something that's challenging, especially around, um, you know, in a very highly pressurized situation, he's always so proud of himself, and we can genuinely celebrate that.
Yeah, and you can build on that, right? And I think that I always say to my students, I'm like, first of all, you have to believe in the dog, right? Because if you don't believe in the dog, well, the dog's never going to believe in themselves. And you have to be the anchor for the dog. Like, you have to stop being like, oh God, and just be cool, calm, and collected. Okay, I see this. All right, let me help you through this, or, let me help you work through this. And then build that teamwork, build that trust, build that confidence rather than just kind of, you know, throw their hands up in the air and like every time the dog like looks left or right, go, see, he's nervous, see, he's panicking. And then it makes you powerless. Like when that happens, you can't really do anything to fix it or to help the dog or to help the dog overcome it.
Yep.
Um,
And going back to just the labeling, I think this applies to I mean it applies to all dogs, but definitely there's people who bring out very non-traditional dogs and they're like, well, my dog couldn't work because, that fluffy coat looked like a sheep,
Yeah.
or I don't know. Um
mhm,
like there must be rats in that corner.
mhm,
My dog is a terrier, so of course, he's sniffing because there must have been rats in here at some point.
Right.
Um it all kind of goes back to like there must have been a bitch and heat in here at some point. Um
yes.
and I think that particularly with some of the more non-traditional dogs, there are people who, when they're not having success, they try and find um they try and find an excuse that would be more unique to their dog and their situation.
Yeah.
Yes, and again, it's limiting because then you don't have a solution then, right? You can't fix it.
Right.
Like if your dog's a terrier and there's rats in every corner, well then basically you're shit out of luck, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
Right.
nothing you can do about it. Versus yes, I have a terrier, maybe there were rats here, maybe there weren't. But in either event, I'm just going to keep working to help my dog be more engaged or help my dog, overcome their rat obsession.
Yeah, you always have
Right.
the choice of how you attack this, whether it's to be powerless or to be powerful. Kind of an example of this is several years ago, I knew that German Wirehaired Pointer Nationals was going to be held in a livestock barn. And several years before it had also been held in another livestock barn. There were pigeons in the rafters, almost no dogs qualified in obedience. It was kind of a shit show. Actually, no, it wasn't kind of a shit show. It just was. Um, it was bad. Um, but I'm like, you know what? I know where there's a pigeon coop, and so I had my dog do signals in a pigeon coop because I'm like, if you can do signals with 20 pigeons flying around and into you, you can do it if there's a couple in the rafters. And we
Had a
got high and
girl.
trial that year. Yeah, high and
Had
trial
a
and high combined.
girl. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? On off-breed nationals, first of all, why do they do because my one training partner has a Rhodesian Ridgeback. They'll have it in like a barn, like they had it last year, no center stanchion, like, and they didn't even have regular ring
Yeah, it was
gates.
like a dressage ring with the
Yeah, it
low.
was like a dressage, and I'm like, what are you people doing to these?
I know.
Give them a chance.
Yeah.
Like these venues. Jeez.
It
Help them
it's
out.
so hard. There's a lot that I wish could be different, and I think a lot of it oftentimes comes down to finances. These are smaller clubs, and they
Yeah.
may not have
Right.
the most money to rent the nicest rings. And
Yeah.
particularly, like I know for Wire Hair Nationals, um, I was chair one year, and um, the friend that I was co-chair with, we were the only two people in the B classes. So we were both simultaneously setting up and stewarding for each other
Yeah.
in between running dogs.
Mhm.
Um, and then there was a handful, maybe like 4 or 5 novice dogs. So, it's really hard when you have that small of an entry to be able to
Right.
justify financially getting a really nice setup that would be
Yeah. Yeah.
advantageous for newbies to want to it's kinda like this catch-22 of
Mhm.
people don't want to enter these small breed, nationals in the lower levels for obedience because it's going to be subpar of a setup for success
Yeah.
than most local trials, but then there's not the entries to support, financially getting a nicer venue.
Yeah. It is
And
a
it's
catch
kind of
20.
like you said, because my training partner, like he'll find out where the nationals are held, find out what the venue's like. And I remember one year it was on like a dirt floor barn type scenario. So we found some dirt floor places where we could train, right? And we took him there and we trained him there because um Rhodesians are they are not, yeah, the whole bred to hunt lions, not the ones that are being bred now. They don't like their paws to get wet. They don't like to lay down. They're like prima donnas. They're like princesses. So, what he would was he get like he probably wouldn't want to lay down on the dirt and he wouldn't want to do this and that. So we rented these places or he made arrangements to go to these different places so he could work through all those things
Yeah.
to you know maximize the dog's ability to succeed in that like unique setting. And then even where they had the last one where they had those wacky ring gates, like he just warmed up to towards that, like he wasn't like, oh god, I'm done, is the bottom line, right? He didn't just throw up his hands in despair. He solved the problem, right? How can I help my dog be successful in this situation? Um, and yeah, so what you said is like so key. I had that written down because when people use those breed labels as an excuse in a sense of like, well, now I can't do anything about it. Well, then you can't, right? You're not empowering yourself.
Right.
Instead, so be creative, think about how can you solve the problem, understand, yeah, I may need to work way harder on this than somebody else, but that's okay because that's another thing, like if you choose an off breed, then you chose that breed, right? And so you are going to have more challenges than certain other people with certain other dogs.
For sure.
And
Um,
that comes with it. So you know that going in. So I don't like when people are like, "Ugh, stupid terriers, blah blah." Well, dude, you got a terrier.
right,
Like,
that's the
Right.
dog that you have and you love. Obviously, it lives in your
Right.
house for a reason.
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Like, yeah, I get it. It can get a little frustrating, but it is what it is. It is a terrier at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you
Keep at
chose
it.
it.
Doesn't
Yep.
mean you can't do well with it. You might have to work harder. Okay, that's just part of the territory. If you don't want to do that, then don't get a terrier. Get a golden retriever. I'm not saying all golden retrievers are easy to train. People don't flip out. I'm just saying.
But I think something that also we need to talk about is that there's a spectrum of non-traditional, and that not all non-traditional breeds are equally non-traditional. Um, so I think before we get into this, like I want to define both non-traditional, and to do that, it's just the opposite of traditional, which would be breeds that both currently and historically dominate in the obedience ring. So, like retrievers, Goldens, Labs, and then Border Collies, Shelties, and then some of these more historical breeds like Poodles and German Shepherds.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of what you call this more traditional group, and then everything else is just this amorphous, non-traditional group. Um, but there's such a spectrum within that, uh, and the challenge level is exponentially higher in some of these breeds than others. Like,
Yeah, I
there's some
agree.
of these uncommon or rare breeds that are hidden gems waiting to be discovered for performance sports.
I agree. Sorry, I
Yeah.
had to say that because there
Oh, yeah.
are so many breeds. I'm like, oh my god, why are more people not have this breed?
Honestly, I think of German Wirehaired pointers that way. I think that if you want a real hidden gem and you want to do well in breeds, literally any breed or any sport, pick your sport. If you can be in the top 5 if you can get to the top level. Um, but yeah, so there's these non-traditional breeds, and um, well, actually, let me back up for a second. So I want to kind of break down some of the temperament traits that are common to the breeds that we commonly see on the podiums. Um, and that's going to be high energy, easily motivated, resilient to both pressure and repetition, biddable and wants to work with people, and a dog who finds the act of working to be inherently rewarding. And then physically, dogs who are medium to large in size, square in build, dog shaped for lack of a better word.
Yeah, structural.
Yeah, and has fluffier curly hair. So these are all the traits that the more of these traits are a predictor of success, and the more likely that success is going to come easily. While conversely, the more divergent a dog is from any of those traits, the more challenging it's going to be for them to do well in obedience.
Or rally or certain other sports that are not where they're not inherently bred for, right?
Yeah,
Right, right. And
That's a very good definition.
yeah,
really good,
thank you.
Ariel.
I've thought a lot about this.
Well, it's
Clearly.
good because I think this is a topic that comes up with a lot of people with depending on what they have for their dog, their breed of dog for sure.
And it's also understanding like this so back to Dwight, just because you did such a nice example of like um he wants to like sniffing is in him. Like it's wired into his DNA, right? I'm not going to fight that, right? I'm not going to be like, stop sniffing, stop sniffing. I'm just going to leverage that, right? Like, I'm going to accept, like, this is who you are. I understand that. So, how can I take that and leverage that to get what I need you to, or what I would like you to give me, right? And I feel like sometimes people, on the one hand, they'll use their dog's traits as an excuse, but on the other hand, they're, like, trying to fight a battle that they're never gonna win because at the end of the day, you're not gonna change, like, innately the genetics that are just wired into your dog.
Right. So another example of that, my German Wirehaired pointer Newt. He is a very environmentally aware dog. He's a pointer, and he's also like I've worked him a lot on birds. He's a dual champion, so he's got his field championship, and he's also a master hunter. So he's been on birds pretty extensively. He understands that the environment has these draws, and he listens and he watches for small changes in the environment. I know this about him. Um, and something that I've noticed just historically is that if I can get him into busier venues, he tends to do so much better than when I have him in quiet, sterile venues.
Yeah.
So in my state of North Carolina, almost all of the trials are single ring, one judge trials. And you're going to be hard pressed to find a trial where people won't shush you if you talk in a conversational tone. So I always wanted to get Newt much more uh, consistent locally before I traveled with him, but I never really. I got his UD. He got his UDX, but he was never really consistent or working in a way that he seemed happy and that I was super comfortable with. Um, and then I would take him to the classic. The first year we went to the classic, had a trial right beforehand, locally. He bombed it, and I was convinced he was gonna do awful. He got 3rd in open that year. Same exact setup the next
Wow.
year. He got 4th in utility. Um,
Wow.
and then,
Wow.
so it came to being this pattern of, okay, I know he at least likes these really busy venues. Um, he did really well, ending up just a couple placements outside of the top 10 in Masters last year. I was super proud about that. He made top 50 at the NOC.
Yeah.
So
They're
these are
just
all things
more,
he loves that environment. He
yeah,
loves
and
the
it's just
energy. He
more
loves all
it's
that
more
going on.
advantageous to him, you know? Like,
Yes.
it's just more advantageous to him.
Well, for a dog who wants to look around, the more there is to look at, the less there is to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you've
Well,
got
but
a quiet place, every little pin drop, every cough, every dog bark sounds deafening, and you can hear it inside the ring. When you're in, you may not realize it if you haven't gone to like the classic or the NOC, but you don't hear any of the noise when you're in the ring.
yeah, it's just this loud buzz.
White
Yeah.
white
There's
is
no one specific noise because it's just background noise at that point.
right.
But you also, again, had to kind of just think outside. Like you didn't just say, well, he can't do it in the quiet trial, so no way I'm going to try a busy trial. You're like, well, I'll try it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that a lot of times people pigeonhole themselves. Um, they limit themselves. Like, you have to be creative sometimes. You have to be willing to try it. Okay, I try it. Was a disaster? Okay, no big deal. Like, well, that didn't work. Right? I think people sometimes they worry too much, or they're like, this is the way it's done, or this step has to come before that step. And I think that I think we've talked a little bit about this in the past. Like, creativity, like, is so important in training. Like,
Yeah.
willing to try different things, willing
Yeah.
to just see what happens, willing to, like, okay, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I think when you have non-traditional breeds or even a traditional breed, and for that dog is just more challenging, you need to be like open-minded. You need to be willing to just try some things that on paper might not make sense, or that if you told somebody, they might go, oh, that's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, agree. I was just gonna say that. Listen to your gut.
Yeah, and just try things anyway. Like, I think that's interesting because um, you're pretty young. Like, I feel like maybe that's why you're more open-minded. Because,
Well, I feel
um,
like, there's a lot of people who have told me I can't do what I want to do, and I'm one of these people who I'm like, "Well, fuck you, I'll show you."
amen, sister.
Yeah.
Right, but it's not always easy, right? It's not easy when you're trying things, and then, of course, when we try things, a lot of times they don't work. And then we have self-doubt, right? And then added on top of that, we have these people saying, or at least if they're not saying it to your face, they're saying it behind your back. I
Mhm.
told you so, right? Um, like, you have to have something where you're just like, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep going.
Well,
I
sometimes you just have to experiment. Like, you know what I mean? With anybody, I think
Absolutely.
you have to have that freedom, that like to be able to say, you know what, I'm just gonna try it. It may go sideways, but I need to know if this is a possibility that's gonna work for this dog. And sometimes you just need to freaking try it.
But that takes courage,
It sure
right?
does.
Because you're doing something that not everyone else is
Brain.
doing.
Yep.
You're doing it your way, and people just love to watch people fail, right?
Yep.
And we know that it's in the back of our mind, like, because we just know that. And so to be able to take that leap and like to have it fail and then not just go, well, I'll just go back to well, I'm going to try something different again. Like,
But
what?
I think this
Really?
is also about defining what failure is. So, kind of to go
Mhm.
back to the example of Dwight and his articles, um, I tried tie downs, and he was clearly getting frustrated by the fact that he knew that he needed to retrieve and he couldn't. Like, if he would get to one that he couldn't immediately pick up, it didn't really compute to him to keep trying again on other ones. He would just try harder on the first one that he came to.
Mhm.
So, could that be looked at as a failure? Yeah, that wasn't the method for him. But my takeaway from that wasn't that tie down was a failure overall. It was that actually tying down the articles, having him be unable to bring something back, was creating a frustration for him that was um, uh, the opposite of helpful
Yeah. Negatively
for what
impact.
my goals were. I tried using food on the articles, which that was great. But, you know, he also had some self-doubt afterward of, "If there's not food, where are we?" And as I started to fade it down. Um, and ultimately, what I came to was, okay, he just needs to be, shaped onto scent, and we'll see how that goes, and that worked marvelously.
Right. So it's the perspective. And I think that's a huge point because I do think people are very much oriented to it's either a success or a failure, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
Obedience is
this,
way too hard, especially if
oh,
you have an uphill battle already just by the breed that you chose, to be able to see it in terms of pass, fail, win, lose.
Well, and also paired with being limited to your options of training methods or ideas and lack of creativity and the freedom to try more abstract ways. I think that's a big one.
I
Oh,
think
for
it's like
sure.
that in a lot of sports, though. Like a lot of sports, some more than others, have like set ways, like this is how we do it, right?
Mhm.
And then, um, and in general, like I have someone, she has a terrier, she's doing scent articles. I'm teaching her scent oh my God, Lori, help me, the
The
word.
tens.
Yeah, the scent the tins, right? And then whatever, the whole method. And like the dogs, and she's never done scent articles before, right? So dog's doing great step by step. And it's like step by step, she posts a video. She's like, look how well my dog's doing. Well, how are you going to do? And immediately, like two or three times now, someone has said to her, well, how's that going to work out? You better
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure the dog's not doing this, or you better make sure the dog's not doing that.
All the
And I'm
experts.
like, that doesn't even make sense, right? So
Right.
she comes to me, she's like, somebody said blah, 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 right? And so, of course, like, luckily she has me to come to, but like,
Right.
then now she's gonna start, oh, well, maybe I'm doing this wrong, even though it's going well. Like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
maybe
Self-doubt.
I shouldn't be doing like
Yep.
that. Maybe should because and from the other person's perspective, oh, this is a different method. You don't even understand the method, but then don't start. But that's just human nature, right?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
So one of the
so
critiques that I would have for just the amount of information available, particularly to people who need a much more creative path for their dog, whether that's a non-traditional dog um, or just a more challenging traditional breed, um, is that there's some incredible training talent in this country who are very set in their ways of how things are done,
Mhm.
and anything outside of that is wrong.
mhm.
Um,
For
you
sure.
know, something that I faced kind of an issue with Dwight was he really struggled with the concept of stand. And uh, he's a dachshund, so people just automatically assume, oh, well, his back must hurt. Or, like, because what he would do is he would stand and then he would sit back down.
Yeah.
So people assumed that his back hurt or his knees were bad. I was told, go talk to the Och Dachshund people. Do you know how many Och Dachshund people there are?
None? One?
More than none, but I think it's one or two. Who are currently, the dog is alive right now.
Yeah, right.
Or
40 years ago.
right, exactly. And the other thing is they're all minis. Dwight is a standard. And he's a bigger standard too. He's 27 pounds. So he's twice as long as some of these mini dachshunds. And a stand has just not been the easiest thing for him. I've tried
Right.
everything. And like I was getting suggestions like, well, just kick under his belly. Okay, well, then he wants to move away. I don't want to teach him to move away from pressure when I've spent so much time teaching him to come into my pressure.
Yeah.
Put a, cold Coke can under his belly, he'll stand up.
Oh, Jesus.
Why? And I've had more than one Och trainer who was like, here, let me see. They take a handful of treats, they try what their normal method is that, taught their border collie or their golden in all of about, 5 minutes to stand forever. And lo and behold, it didn't work. So what I ended up doing, I don't know why, but I set up a camera at Dwight's level behind him where the judge would stand on signals. And I had him do a stand from a sit and a down. And I'm like, oh my God, he's stepping on his tail.
Oh, yeah. I remember you told me this.
Yeah. And so what he would do is because I worked really hard on a kickback stand because I didn't really want him to move forward because anybody who's ever done obedience with a very pressure sensitive dog knows that one step turns into more very quickly. So I had him kick back and he would step on his tail and then with the pressure would sit back down. So I cut like 4 inches off of his tail and suddenly I didn't have stand issues anymore. It was amazing. It was the quickest training fix I've ever had.
Well, that's the whole, yeah, like and we have talked about this many times, like there is no one method. Like there's just not. Like I can't even remember how I taught my dogs like anything because I'm changing it all the time. And then
Yeah.
like with students' dogs, like I'm never like there's only this way because there's got to be 10 different ways because each dog is different, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and like good point there too. Like literally you have to look at it from all angles, like literally like front, side and back, right? And really kind of analyze like what are you doing? What is the dog doing? Like how is the dog perceiving this? And that's what it should be all about. It should be about like solving the problem, right? It shouldn't be about this is the method, apply the method. The method should be solve the problem, right? Again, be creative, figure it out. Don't just say like, well, this is the only way to do it.
Well, there are people who they only want to do a very specific type of methodology. They only want to train a very specific way, and that's all that they're comfortable with. And you know what? You can find a dog for that. But the number of dogs who will fit into that are very limiting. So if you have a non-traditional breed or a dog who doesn't work with, your preferred methods, then your options are to either not train them or to train different. That's really as simple as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also think like advocating for your dog, right? Because if you do have a different breed or a dog that, has some issue and it's a struggle and and this isn't to throw shade on trainers because everybody's not like this, but like the trainer should either say, well, I'm not sure, like maybe like like I don't have a problem if you go to a different trainer besides me,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or if you come up with different ideas, like but people again, like they have to have the courage to say, like, well, no, I'm not gonna put the soda bottle under. Nope, I'm not gonna put my foot under. Nope, I'm gonna like not do the things that I don't think are gonna work for this particular dog. But I'm also not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep looking and I'm gonna keep searching and I'm gonna figure it out. Right. And so they have to be willing to say, like, okay, yeah, no, I don't want to try that. And but also not give up, right? And not say, or not if the trainer says, well, then you can't fix it, or you, or whatever limiting thing they might say, or other people might say, you have to be like, yeah, maybe you're right, but I'm going to keep trying to figure this out. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
keep
100%.
trying to solve this problem.
Right.
And people have to trust in their gut, you know? Um, everybody's insecure. Um, but at the end of the day, if your gut is telling you it's not this or it's not that, right? Then you have to believe that because no one knows your dog better than you know your dog, right?
And I
And
100%.
go
and I
ahead.
think as far as methods, you also have to sometimes choose or decide, I guess, is this a method that's going to be beneficial to my relationship with my dog?
True.
Because there are methods that work that might produce short-term results that don't give you long-term what you're looking for. And that's also something that you need to really decide, is that a road that you want to go down?
Yeah. Boy, is that a hotbed right now.
Yeah, that's a whole nother hour
I'm
conversation.
not even going to go down that road.
Uh,
Um, yes, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's got to be about. Like, I try to tell people, like, do you even remember why you started doing this? Like, why did you start? Why did you first do dog sports? Like, I remember why I did it. I wanted to spend more quality time with my dog, and I wanted to like build my bond with my dog. That is literally why I started doing this. And Lori and I have said this many times, like our dogs, first and foremost, they're our pets.
yeah.
Like that's what they are first, right? And everything else after that is everything else after that, right?
Yeah.
And it's just supposed to be things we do together that we enjoy doing together. It's a relationship we build. We build the relationship because we're really learning about the dog and figuring this dog out and communicating with this dog. And that at the end of the day is what trumps everything else. And it's why we make the choices we make and why we like I there have been many times where I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try and do it this way. And in spite of it causing me big problems with people sometimes, I go home and I think about it and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is what I'm going to do because this is what I want to do for my dog.
Right.
Right? And, and again, and I have students, they come to me like with a struggle, like, um, I I want to go to this class or I want to go to this situation or I want to train with these people, but it's contrary or but, I need to put and I always say your relationship comes first. What you need to do with your dog comes first. And you can kindly explain that. And if people aren't okay with that, then you need to make a decision. And the decision might be hard. You might need to leave. You might need to walk away.
Right.
You might lose. I think somebody recently, I think I sent you that message, Lori, right? Like emailed us or messaged us something along those lines, like, like, "I'm training with these people and it's not in
Yeah,
line," and,
yeah.
like, that's hard,
It's
you
really hard.
know?
It's uncomfortable. It's very hard on many different ways. At the end of the day, like this is I think something that resonates with most people out there training dogs in whatever community you're in. Like the opinions and the advice come flowing in from everybody thinking that they're an expert, obviously, in that. And at the end of the day, it does come back to you and your dog and your relationship. And at what cost are you willing to get to whatever endpoint or goal or whatever it is you're trying to get to? Like, I don't know. I always try to put it in terms of like, my relationship with my dog is first and foremost. And it's like, it is first and foremost all the time. And I'm not going to do anything that's going to take away from that. And I always just say, like, it's just too expensive. I'm not going to risk that. I'm not
Yep.
risking that between my dog and I. There's got to be another way, right? And it's very hard. Like, again, we could go down that road and
Yep,
talk
and
about
you can have big goals without like, you don't have to sacrifice your desire to, have big goals
right.
for the relationship. In fact, I
Yeah.
would I would say sometimes it's actually the opposite. If you, spare your relationship, you're not going to get to the big goals.
Yeah.
I've had a number of people ask me if I plan to get an Och on Dwight, and I say no. And it's not because I wouldn't love an Och. It's not because I don't think that based on what I'm seeing right now that he might be capable of one. It's that if I acknowledge that as a goal at this point in time, he doesn't even have a UD. Um, so if I acknowledge that as a goal, it's not going to that pressure is only going to sit as a weight on top of our relationship, which isn't fair to either of us.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah, definitely.
Relationship first, people, relationship first. I'm gonna have to go on TikTok now. I had to ban myself off TikTok because I like 300% have an addictive personality. Like, the fact that I'm not addicted to, like, drugs or something is a miracle because, like, I have and I don't know, years ago, somebody sent me something on TikTok, I downloaded it. Hours later, I'm still scrolling, and I'm like, "Oh
No, it
my
is.
god.
It
This is
is.
a this is a huge
You
problem."
just set your timer.
So I had to, like, ban myself from TikTok. But,
Yeah, if you wanna
but I'm
find
super
me, my, handle is Devious Pickles. Um, all
okay,
one
well, I'm
word.
glad you said that because I woulda never thought to look that up.
No,
Well,
it
we
it's
put it in our show notes so people can find Arielle because she's got great content and she posts all sorts of good stuff.
oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you're promoting the sport, both obedience and rally, and especially to younger people,
Yeah.
because we always need younger people in. And, the barrier to entry can be hard because the sports can be really challenging. Um, so I think that's super valuable. So yeah,
So
that'll be
because I
fun.
have a pulse on the younger generations, I just wanna kind of put in as a plug because I've heard many comments of people think that the sport of obedience is dying because young people don't wanna work hard because there's so many more sports to choose from. And yes, there's more sports, but I would, also encourage people to question themselves how accessible they're making themselves to younger people who might be working professionals or young parents with having classes outside of daytime hours. Most instructors at, local kennel clubs are, seniors who are, or retirees, people who are holding classes during the day, not necessarily nighttime classes.
Yeah.
Um, and what is your barrier to entry for the basic classes? Because when I was 22 and trying to get into sport classes with my first German Wirehaired pointer, I wanted to get into obedience classes, but I was told, given your age and her age and breed, maybe you should go and solidify your basics in another basic obedience class
Oh
first.
my God.
Oh boy.
And then, we got our CD, a couple months later with no help from anyone, with a 198 average. Um, so it's there, you don't necessarily need to discount younger people or younger people with non-traditional breeds. This is how, um, it makes it a very challenging uphill battle to even get into the sport, um, when there's other sports that are much more readily accessible. I would say that accessibility is the biggest barrier to entry, not desire to work hard.
Yeah, I agree. And to a point, welcoming.
Right. It's really hard when you are hanging out with a bunch of people who, like, I've been to classes where I'm the youngest person by 30 years, and everybody else is their own little friend group in this class, and I feel like I'm sitting on my own. That doesn't feel very welcoming.
Yeah.
I would hang out with you.
Well, thank you. I'd hang out with you too, Pedro.
Well, that's what happened at the classic. We all came over to watch you in novice. Right? And then we
Yeah,
all
no,
hung
that was
Yeah,
great. Thank
out, we
you.
went to dinner, and then it was like,
but yeah, I get it. Yeah, like people are like, I know,
I know, what
humans.
is
God,
wrong?
why are humans
God,
so complicated? Just
I
like
don't
be
know.
nice, help
I
everybody
mean,
out,
something that
welcome
I'll
them
say
in.
is I remember the faces of the people who stuck around to clap for me when I was in Novice A,
Aw.
and those are still people who I feel like they're safe people in my obedience community locally.
Yeah, that's important. You need that. You need that, you need those people for
Oh, yeah,
sure.
the small acts of kindness go a long way.
Oh God, we won't go there. That's all.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
everybody,
could talk for hours.
yeah, we're not going down that road.
Jesus
Be
Christ.
nice. We say it every time. Be nice. Be
Fucking
nice to the new competitors. Be nice to traditional, non-traditional. Be
yes.
nice to everybody. Welcome people in. Help them out. Be open-minded. Be creative. Be kind. Just be nice. Just be
Can do a TikTok on that.
nice.
Yeah, I've
God.
done plenty.
Well,
I
this has been awesome, Ariel. We really, really appreciate you coming on and talking to everybody about
Yeah,
this.
thanks
Your
again for
journey,
having me on.
yeah, your journey has been amazing. Um, we'll see you. Ariel's actually coming up to Connecticut to train with us in June.
Oh,
Yep,
cool.
Yep,
Yay.
yep.
That'll
So
be
we'll
super
see,
fun.
yeah, we'll be
yep.
seeing
And
you.
then good luck at Rally Nationals. And are you doing
I am doing the
NOC as
NOC as well.
well?
Yep.
Good.
Mhm.
So if you guys live stream, go check her out. Check her out with her dogs. And she's like, shut up. No pressure. No, you won't even be thinking about it because always nice to see
Yes.
happy working dogs and to understand, like, and respect. Look, I know how much work it is to train a dog to that level. Um, and then to train a non-traditional breed, even that much more work. And we should all have an enormous amount of respect for anyone and everyone that undertakes training their dog and competing with their dog. And
Yep.
happier their dog is, the higher level they're working towards. It just means this person has put in an enormous amount of
That-
work. They've been really open minded, they've been flexible, and we should respect that. And we should respect that. We should admire that. We should encourage that. And we should cheer that on. Um, so
Yep.
that's what everybody should be doing.
Here, here.
Yep.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you in June. Thank you so much for coming
Thank you,
on.
guys.
See
Thanks,
you soon, Ariel.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.